Hi everyone, welcome to another exciting behind the scenes Media Peruana Designs blog, videocast, whatever you want to call it. It is the last day of 2018 somehow, so this is my last vlog, whatever you want to call it, for 2018, and this is also the last video cast I'm going to do before I officially launch the Hilo and Stitch podcast in the new year. So this is going to be like my usual ones, which are kind of informal. Once we start the official podcast, then I'll try to do some more organized segments and things like that. But today it's going to be, same casual rambling about knitting and design that I always do. Although this time I did actually remember to bring some knitting to work on while I am rambling. This is a weekender that I've been working on probably on and off since October, late September. It is not a complicated pattern. I just, get distracted with designs, and then I actually did finish my gift knitting this year, so it is still on the needles, but I'm hoping to get it finished in January. I am up to the front yoke, I guess we would call it. So I'm more than halfway done. So as I said, this month, after I finished my last two publications of Jaji and Michek, and also Cusqueña, I have been mostly working on gift knitting. I did get my gifts done. Of course, I have given them away, so I don't have them to show you. But I did a brioche cowl for my sister. That was the brioche bandana cowl pattern by Lavanya Patricella. I did a brioche hat for my husband. That was the Harlow pattern by Andrea Mowry. And then I did re-knit the sleeve on the Jaji pullover and give that to my dad for Christmas. And then I knit a Kill Dalton hat for my dad's girlfriend, and I don't remember who the designer is for that one. But good news, when I start doing the more formal podcast next month, I will do show notes and do all those links and things that you're supposed to do when you have a podcast, so you can find stuff that I'm talking about. And I did share pictures of all of those things in my Instagram story, so hopefully you caught some photos of them. And I actually did finish, although it's drying right now, a project for myself as part of the Indie Design Gift Along. I knit a pair of mine slippers. I don't remember the designer's actual name, but the business name is Yuki Knits. So those are currently drying. I finished them yesterday, so I knit one selfish project in the whole Indie Design Gift Along, even though I bought 5 or 6 patterns, which I always do. It's a good time to support independent designers, and I probably won't design patterns forever, so it's nice to have a library of patterns built up. So that brings my grand total of non-design projects for the year up to, let's see, hat, cowl, hat, slippers, tank top, 5, including only 2 for me. So maybe 2019 will be the year I can better balance my designs and my personal projects. We'll see about that. What else? I actually have been, since my husband is home for the Christmas break, I've been doing some swatching for 2019 designs. So I have this one. I don't know if I've shared this one before. This is for a pullover pattern, and this is going in the mail this week to a magazine in response to one of their calls for submission. So if that's accepted, that would be a winter 2019. I don't know if they call it 19 or actually 2020. That's terrifying. But it would be next winter issue, so it would come out, November, December of 2019. If not, I might shop this one around a little bit more. And then I did this swatch. Let's see, a little shadow there. There we go. And this is for a call for submissions for Gansey-inspired pullover or sweaters, not necessarily pullovers, but this is for a pullover. This is inspired by a photo I shared way back at the beginning of the year of Diego Luna, who, if you're not familiar with him, he's a Mexican actor, probably most famous right now for Narcos Mexico. He was also in one of those Star Wars they did last time. I can handle the original Star Wars, but keeping up with all these new ones they keep making, I have no idea. Was it Rogue One? All right, well, anyway, he was in one of those Star Wars from last year. He had this lovely photo. He inspired the start of the Instagram series I don't do every week, but I try to do at least a few times a month, which is for Man Crush Monday. I post a picture of an attractive man in a gorgeous sweater. So he inspired that, wearing a very nice blue pullover with the similar patterning to this. So that has been submitted. And we'll see how that plays out. I will definitely, if that's not accepted, I will definitely self-publish this one by the end of the year. But fingers crossed that'll be accepted. Because one of the things I'm trying to do for 2019 is to have third-party publishers pick up more of my sweater designs, because they're sort of like they're my favorite thing to design, but they're also the most costly thing in terms of the yarn and the time or the money for a sample knitter, and for tech editing. Usually I do sweaters with 6 or 7 sizes, and so that tends to be pretty pricey in terms of tech editing. So third-party publishers handle a lot of those costs. They almost always handle the yarn, and they handle the tech editing and the photography. So I still do hope to self-publish a few sweater patterns, but I have a fair number of sweater ideas, and I'd really like to get a couple of those picked up by a third party, just to pick up some of that expense. Because I was looking at all the numbers through 2018, which obviously aren't final yet, but almost. And tech editing is my biggest expense. So it's absolutely necessary. You have to have patterns tech edited, and I'm happy to pay a fair rate for a very good tech editor, which I have. She's amazing, but it's still a big expense for a small business. So if I can get at least somebody else to handle that cost some of the time, that's very helpful. So we'll see how that goes. I also have been charting out some color work patterns. This might look familiar. This is very similar to what I did with the Cusqueña hat. It is a little bit of a different arrangement of the designs, and it's 3 colors instead of 2. You can see that it's a little bit of a gradient, a subtle color difference. And that is also going to be for a call for submissions for color work designs. And then this one is for the hat that I knit my husband for Christmas. I used magpie fibers, solo fingering, in two very nice colorways. A dark blue called Bell Bottom Blues, and then I used sort of a silvery gray here, but a very complimentary speckled called London Rain, and there's plenty left over. So I'd really like to do a pair of colorwork mitts in January. That would be a self-publication. So I charted this out because this is something I've wanted to do for a while, which is inspired by sort of traditional Mexican tiles that you see, in particular in, I want to say Distrito Federal, Mexico City. There's a place called Casa de Azulejos, which has these kind of tiles all over the building. It's really beautiful. So this is kind of inspired by that. And that, again, would be a self-published pattern that I would do hopefully January. And since that's self-published, that's something I can, be sharing on Instagram and have people knitting along and things. So let's see how that goes. I need to get the swatch for this done first so that I can send that off, because that deadline is coming up in about a week because it's December 31st. So I am already, got things going for 2019. I don't currently have an independent pattern that is going to go live in January, but I do have a new pattern that I shared the other day here on the Patreon site that is a shawlette that is going to be published by Knit Picks. It is called the Déjalo shawlette. Déjalo means like let it go, just drop it. And so this is a shawl that is knit side to side with ladders of eyelets that are created by dropping and unraveling stitches. So that is supposed to come out right away in January, the 2nd or the 3rd, in their new book called Accents. So I will certainly let you know when that is live, but for now that is the pattern that I'm going to be having published in January, and then we'll see about those other fingerless mitts. The big thing I'm going to be doing in January is starting the Juntos Knit Along, and that starts January 4th. So I'm going to be focused on, hopefully drumming up lots of excitement for that. And for that, I am going to try to finish my X9 socks. There were 4 pair photographed for the pattern. 3 pair were knit by sample knitters, and then I actually only had one sock done at the time, the women's size, and I still only have 1 sock done, but the second sock is maybe a quarter of the way done. I keep it in my son's room in his nightstand for random moments that I might have to knit a few stitches on it. So I am hoping to finish that during the knit along, and then we'll see what else happens. What else? The other thing that I try to do at the end of every year is to come up with a watchword for the coming year. So in 2016 it was nourish, and in 2017 it was nourish. For 2018 it was balance, and so for 2019 it's going to be renew. So I really am working on plans to sort of breathe some new life into the business. So the podcast is part of that. I'm toying with a facelift for my website. I'm not super committed to that because the website just doesn't get a ton of traffic. But if it's, I use Squarespace for my site, and if it's easy enough to do without a whole, if I can sort of click and change the template and then only have a minimal amount of futzing to get things looking right, I might go for it. If it's really going to require a huge overhaul, I am not, because it's just not worth it. But something else that I have been playing with. And so I will be hopefully doing more stuff like that throughout the year. I also am working on developing a second e-course. I think I shared a little bit here on the site. It is going to be called Sweater Siren, and it is going to be, as you might imagine, all about sweaters. That won't be launching until the summer, but I have plenty of work to do on it before that. And before that, I'll be running Swatch Master again as well. But hopefully, I'll be getting lots of these new ideas for reinvigorating business in 2019. So as I was saying, the big new thing in the early part of the year is going to be the podcast. So in case you missed this, I'm going to be taking this sort of behind the scenes vlog video cast public. And what I'll be doing is that once a month I will release a public episode, and that will be available on YouTube. Probably will push it to my website. It will be here on the Patreon site, and I'm going to try to have it set up so that it is hosted by Libsyn or something like that, so that you can get it through, the iTunes store, or whatever other podcast feeds you maybe use. That's for the public episode. And then once a month I will record an episode that is still just for patrons. That one will only be available here on the Patreon site. So you guys won't have to do anything special to get it. It will still be posted here, but this is the only place that it will be available, because it's just for you guys. So the first episode of January will probably be the public one, and then the second one will be the patrons only episode, and we'll probably continue like that throughout 2019. So the podcast is, again, it's going to be called Hilo and Stitch. This is a little bit of a play on words, a bilingual play on words, obviously. Everybody knows the movie Lilo and Stitch. Although I'm, to be honest, it wasn't one of my favorite Disney movies. It's cute. And hilo is the Spanish word for yarn or thread. So when I was looking for a little bit of bilingual wordplay, that's what I came up with. And the response has been really positive. So you can look for your very first episode of Ello and Stitch next month. I have been brainstorming some sort of more formal segments for that. So what I will probably do is continue to do most of the behind the scenes stuff, especially stuff that has to do with third-party publications, because that has to be kept pretty secret. That kind of stuff is still going to be on your exclusive patrons only episode. But for both episodes, I'll be doing, sort of things you see a lot in podcasts, on the needles, off the needles, whips and things like that. I'm also hoping to share some looks at my sketchbook, which means I need to start maybe sketching a little nicer when I sketch out my designs. Probably do a little bit of sort of mom life, work-life balance, talk about that. Hoping to share, Stash Monster, new yarn purchases, new designs I like that if I weren't designing, maybe I would have time to knit. Am also hoping to share some sort of behind the scenes stuff that is not necessarily just for Media Peruana Designs, but about designing in general. How I handle photography, what are some of the secrets of making the knits look good, and making them, styling them so you want to knit them, and things like that. And I also, I want to include whatever it is that you guys want to hear about. So if you have questions that you'd like me to answer, I do have a thread open in my Ravelry group It's an AMA thread, Ask Me Anything, so you can post them there. You can also post them, here on the Patreon site, or if you're watching this on YouTube, wherever, and I will try to answer them in either the first episode or other upcoming episodes. And I'm sure that the podcast is going to be evolving, seeing what works and what doesn't, and what you want to see more of and what you don't care about at all. Maybe you're like, Kristen, please stop talking about Diego Luna. I do not care about him, so although that's probably not going to work out in your favor because he's very pretty. So it will be a work in progress, but I am looking forward to doing it, sort of. To be honest, I am more comfortable writing, but writing also takes a lot more time because I'm more of a perfectionist with it, so I tend to just kind of worry over things and rework them and rewrite them, and so it takes a lot longer to do, whereas here I'm just kind of rambling. And people just aren't reading blogs as much. I still try to publish to my blog a couple of times a month, but it's, I guess it's just the world that we're living in. I know that there are some people that do still read blogs, but in general, people are more oriented to audio and video now, so blogs just aren't as helpful for reaching out to people as maybe they used to be. I know I used to read lots of blogs, and then Google Reader disappeared, and I kind of stopped reading a lot of them because I could not find any other system that would sort of keep them organized for me, show me what I had read, what I hadn't, it would notify me, and I just couldn't find anything else that really worked for me to keep them organized. So, not that, I also subscribe to a lot of podcasts that I don't watch or listen to just because of time. Not because I don't enjoy them, but when I do have time, it's a lot easier to just turn on Downcast, which is the app I use to organize my podcast feeds, and just listen, when I'm doing my makeup or cooking or whatever. I can play it through Alexa. I said Alexa, now she's confused. So I can listen to it in different parts of the house. I can't, it's just not as easy to do that with blogs. So while I am more comfortable writing, I think the podcast is just going to be a little bit more accessible for people. So that is what we're going to be doing moving forward, though I do hope to keep writing on the blog occasionally. So that is about it for this last behind the scenes video cast, vlog, podcast, whatever you want to call it. We'll be launching something a little bit more formal next month. I will also probably run a little longer when I'm a little more organized and using segments and things like that. Now most of these run about 20 minutes. I'm planning for something more like 30 to 40, so we'll see. Thank you for joining me. I am going to be sharing this last video cast publicly to give just people a chance to see some of the kind of behind the scenes stuff that I have been talking about, give them an idea of what to expect. So if you are not a patron yet and you are watching for the first time, thank you, and I hope you will keep watching when the official podcast launches next month, and we'll consider sponsoring Media Peruana Designs on Patreon, so you have access to both monthly podcasts. So I will see you all next time.